Howdy ho! Advanced Web Application React Part 2, so let's get a bit deeper to the React. So first, let's discuss a bit about fragments. So we have a components here in React, and components need to always return an element. And they can only return one element. So we have this return clause and it's returning something and it can only return one element. This is completely fine in most of the cases when you can, for example, put everything inside one div and then just return that div. That's fine. But there are cases when one div is not enough. You need to return different parts. So for example, we have a table and we need to return different rows to that table or different cells to one row. So we would need to return several TR elements or TD elements. Then we would need to have some way to return those. Instead of div, we can use React fragment. So this is quite simple. So we just make this kind of a wrapper to these elements. So if we would like to return header and text for some reason, we could just use this wrapper React fragment and we could give it a key, so some kind of an ID here. This sounds a bit too much code. Why would we want to write so much code? So we can have a shorthand like this here. So we just use these angle brackets and then closing that. So it's basically empty tags and we are closing that and it is working. But if we use this shorthand version, then we are losing the option for the key, but it's usually not an issue. And then comes the part where we are actually needing these fragments, router and routing. So React does not have a routing in core, it's just a library, but we have plenty of ways to do the routing, so we are using this React router DOM package, which is doing the job. And reactrouter.com is the address where you can find documentation, of course, nice to read that through. And it's easy to install just one package. And actually the usage is also quite straightforward. We are just using this JavaScript extension syntax. So here we have a router. So we have just one div there, and inside this div we have these different routes. So we have one route that is to the root page. Let's say it's like an index page, and then there is this another route to the about page, and we are defining that the element that should be rendered on these paths should be this first case. This would be this poems component, and the about page we would render this about component. Let's have an example of this. Let's continue our application. As you can see that I have changed that this page is now looking like white with black text. So only thing I actually did was comment out this index.css, which is irrelevant import when we are now developing our simple application. But yeah, let's go with this routing. First of all, we need some packages. So let's install this React router DOM. It's doing the magic for us like that, and then let's keep the application running. So what we actually would like to have, we would like to have some other page. So let's build a component, which is, in this case, it's a completely new page called about, like this. And I have installed by the way, a plugin called ES7 React Redux React Native Snippets. So this is like helping me. So now I can, let's say I want to get some React template in this sense. There are React functional components, so it's building something like this. So there are plenty of ways how you can write React. So I am trying to find this arrow function syntax component. So React arrow function component export. So now I got boilerplate code that can be used as a starting point. So it already had this about keywords as this file name is about.tsx. So not bad. So I don't need to write all of this. So here we have now a second page. This is about. Let's modify it so that we would have a page header here. Let's have h2, yeah, like this. It's about, and we can have some lorem ipsum text here. Let's get rid of this. Okay, now we have it. How we can get to that part? What we should do? We should actually have a menu to get that. So let's add a new component called menu. tsx, like this. And once again, I'm using this React arrow function component, not that one. Here we have the menu part. So let's call this menu, so we can have a class name menu. And what we are having here is just two links to different pages. So let's have them. This is going to the home page, and then we have a second link that is going to this about page, like this. Very simple. And now we can add this to our application. So here we have the poems part, but we could have also the menu there. So let's first add the menu component here, and of course we need to add it. Nope, yes. Now we have the menu component here. Let's actually add a space here. We are not getting a big space. Now we have a space there. So it's not working, nothing is happening because we are not using the router. But as you can see, the URL here changes and the page is getting reloaded. But let's first have the routing part. So we will need routes, and these our components are inside these routes. I am copy pasting some imports here. Now we have this router React router DOM, so we will need those routes. And what now we are not seeing anything because we have not defined any route here. So first we need to define the route, and this our first route is this route, and we are giving it as an element, as a parameter. And what element is this? So in this case it should be these two elements, but yes, we can only give one element, so we need to use a fragment here, like this. And this route is now not closed. Now it is. And now if we are going to the route, we should see something. Yes, because I am now missing here there should be another component called browser router, and let's have this here. Now we have it, and now the second page is not working. We have only this poems part, and actually this should not be here at all. We could have it in the poems, like this. So let's then build a second route. So this has this path /about, and it has only one element, which is called this about component. And let's close this route now. We do not have that about component imported. Now this is working. So we have basically two pages here. The browser is seeing two different URLs, so you can copy paste this URL and share it in social media if you wish. But as you can see, this page is being reloaded every time I press this link. But we are developing a React application which should run smoothly on the front end. So what is happening here? So the problem is here that we are using these HTML anchor links, which, yeah, they are just like that. They are doing the refresh. But there is of course a way to do that with the React way. So let's have a, instead of let's have a link. And this link doesn't have this href, it has attribute 2. And yes, this link is not found. The reason is that we haven't imported anything that would provide us the link. So let's import link. And this link can be found from the React router DOM. Now it is working, and then let's switch this second link also to use this link component. Like this. And it would be very nice if we had a space somewhere. It's not nice, it's there. Yeah. Let's have it like this. Now when we are switching these pages, or actually it's, so basically we are, what user is thinking that we are switching pages from home to about. The React is just rendering the different component on the screen, and it goes very smoothly. So that is how routing is done in React in essence. Then let's continue with internationalization, short I18N, a long word. So very often you want to build an application that can handle various languages. So if you think about, let's say, Facebook, if it would be only available in English or in Malaysian, if that is even a language, how many would use that service or that application? So when you need to have plenty of users from different countries, then why wouldn't you use some kind of a translation for your user interface? There are plenty of tools to help this, and there are a few things to consider. First, we need to detect what is the correct language. So there are plenty of ways we can detect what is the language of the browser, what is the language of the operating system. I don't know if that's accessible, maybe not, but at least the language of the browser. Or we can set that the user can select what language he or she wants to use, or anything like that. Then we need to provide the translation of the content. Of course, in the future, probably AI can translate, but now we are using translation services. Someone is translating the content, the user interface, the actual content to different languages, and then they can be provided to users. And that's the last point. We need to serve the right translation. So if user has been selected that he wants to use a Spanish version of the site, then we need to provide el contento en español or something like that. So there is this react.i18next.com. that is, it's the website there where is all the documentation, and we just want to install this these packages. For example, these packages, there are even more packages which we will cover. So let's have an example on this. And the next topic is this internationalization. What about if we would like to have this menu in different languages? So now it's only available in English. What about if we would like to have it in Finnish or Spanish or whatever? So let's install a few packages. I'm taking these, but then there are some additional packages also available if we want to get, for example, detection from browser. We can have this browser language detection, and then there is this also this HTTP backend that can be used. Let's just take them, we might need them in the future. Let's keep running our application, and now let's try to build it so that our menu is translated. This is actually quite easy because we only need to use this one function that is doing the translation, but we will need a lot of code around it. So first let's import use translation from React I80 next, yes, and then we will need to have the functions. What we are using is the T, which is the translate, and then I18N. What we are going to translate is just this word home and about. So let's translate them. It is working like this. So we are using this the function and giving parameter to this like this. But now we do not have any translations. Let's have those translations. So we have this public folder. Let's build a new folder there called locales. What languages we are using? Let's have this English language and also a Finnish language. So inside the Finnish language we can provide the translation.json, and here we have just a Finnish translation. So home is like a front page and about is tietoa sivusta, information about the web page. And we can also have the translation for English. Let's have a file here. So here we could also have the home is home and about is about. So let's modify this. It would be front page, so now we would see that it's actually front page because we are translating a string home and we are translating a string about, and now we have a translations for them in English and in Finnish. Then let's get back to this menu. So now we have the translations, but as my browser is speaking English, my operating system is speaking English, and I'm now speaking English also, although this React cannot detect that, hopefully. Then how we can do the translation? So we need something, we need the buttons that could be used as a language switcher. So let's have these buttons. So there is a button for Finnish, and then there is button for English. Let's see, now we have two buttons there. They are doing nothing, so we will need to build some functionality. So basically, if this button is clicked like this, then we can just call a function change language, and we are giving it a parameter Fi because it's changing the language to Finnish. And of course we are doing the same to this English part. Nothing is happening, so let's build this function next. We have a parameter language. It's a string, and with what we are doing here, we are using this I18N. It has a method called change language, and we are giving a parameter this change language there. Now it should work. What I have completely missed here is the actual configuration for this internationalization. So we will need a file here called i18n.ts, And here we will have some configuration. I will copy paste these. These are quite basic configuration. Let's just check this. So we are importing these things that we have installed these modules. So here is the actual configuration. We are using backend. We are using this language detector and we are initializing it, and then we are fallbacking to English. We have a debug true as we are developing, and then we have some escape values that is false. And now let's import this in our main tsx file like this. Now it's working. So now my console is not putting any errors anymore. Now we have these buttons and they are translating the links. So this is like working now. There are still few things. As someone is clicking this Finnish or English button, it will take a while before React can go through all the translations. And thus we need to have a way to do something when the translation process is under construction. So we can have this suspense thing. So let's import suspense from React. And then we can replace this part a bit. So instead of we are doing this menu, we are returning this suspense component, which has fallback, and it's telling like loading like this, and then inside this we are providing this menu component. So if the translation is like huge, it's now using this suspense component. But now we have the translation part. Of course, this is only for the menu. In the real life, you should have everything translated, so that this translation JSON files, this will be huge if you have like a whole application translated, and then you probably want to divide it to several files even. But yeah, that's how the translation things work. And then the last topic of this video is the useEffect, which is very much used when you're developing in React. There are plenty of cases when you need to be doing something before the page is being re-rendered or rendered in the first place. So then we are using this useEffect way. That is the correct way. For example, we want to fetch data from some API. We want to show weather forecast in our web page. We fetch the data, we manipulate it, and the fetching is done in this useEffect. And developer can decide what triggers the call and when it will and what will happen then. So for example, we can have a button that someone is pressing a button and then we are doing the re-rendering. We might have some kind of timer so that it would re-render the page in every 10 minutes or something. Or when we were, let's say there is a puzzle in the web page. When the puzzle is completed, then we can decide that, okay, now we need to do something. Or when the user inputs something in the field, he or she writes her name, and then we can do something when the name is written in some kind of input form. That all of these can be okay. So the useEffect syntax is like this, that we are basically building in a way a function that has something, some effect. It is doing something. So for example, it's fetching data from some service API. We have the input, so it's what is happening, what is done, what will trigger it. So for example, some button is pressed or something like that. And then we have this return cleanup. It means that before we are doing something, we are doing the cleanup, and then we are re-rendering or rendering the stuff on the screen. So first we clean the old stuff away, and then we put new stuff to the screen. And let's have an example on this useEffect. And then the last part, this useEffect. Let's first check that where we could get some data. So there is this JSON placeholder service which we can use, and this is providing us fake JSON data which we can then fetch. For example, here is this example. So here we can fetch some to-do list. So this, if we now run this script, it will give us one to do. If we would modify this, then it would give different things. So what we actually have here, we have different resources. We have, let's say, posts and users and things like that. Let's try to find these and fetch these to our application. And we do not need these translations anymore. We can actually add a completely new page. So let's have here a useEffect TSX, and now we need to have a route for that. Let's get that. Our menu is now missing that. Now I already forgot what was the URL. Yeah, it was like that. And here we are adding like this. So now we have the useEffect demo here, or we don't. useEffect. Yeah, typo there. Now it's working. H1, actually H2. Now we have an empty page which has just a title, and then let's get here a place where we have the data type, and then we have the data, and we can switch what data type we are getting. So here we can have the data type, and then we have just a paragraph that is actually having the actual data that we are fetching from the API, like that. And now we need to have, of course, use states for these. So first of all, we have this data type. Use state. It will have a string content, and the default is posts. So as a default, we are fetching post from the API. But besides this data type, we are actually fetching the actual data. And it is also string, but it is empty as a default. And now, how do we fetch the data? So let's first have still two buttons. One button to get posts, and the second button to get comments. And of course we need to have a onClick method here. We are calling a function called this set data type here, and now we are setting it to posts, and on this comment button we are setting it to comments. Now these are like working. Now we have here in our useEffect component. This component is it's very bad name. I'm going to change it. I'm completely now messing with this. It's just a useEffect demo, and yeah, let's see if that already fixed everything. So now let's get back to this useEffect page, and then let's use these components. And now we have the useEffect demo here, and it has a state posts. It has also this state that this data, but now it's the first one is set to post, and now it's set to comments, so we can see that switch. But now we don't have any data on the page because we are not doing any fetch clause. So now let's use this useEffect. So this useEffect demo, this was very bad name. So it has this name has nothing to do with this actual useEffect. So we have a function here, and we are doing the fetch. And let's do the fetching from the or to the this JSON placeholder, and what we are fetching is the data type. And we can use here this promises syntax, for example. Then we have the response. Let's modify it to JSON, and then what we are doing with this JSON, we are setting the data on our web page to have this JSON stringify. So we are putting text there, so this has to be a string, so we need to use this stringify like this. Let's see what happens now. Now we have let's just refresh the page. We have now user IDs here, plenty of user IDs. And if we switch, then we are getting comments. So we have not set when this state would need to change. Now it's changing always. So let's have here, so the state will only change when the data type is changing. So now we are switching the data type, and now it's switching. So what if we had here data? Nothing would now happen because the data is not, of course, switching, because the data is not switching. So now this decides when we are doing the fetch call. And now we are doing it always when this data type is switching. Then we are going to make the fetch call, and we are getting very much data from the API, way too much. But what if we added just parameter? Now we are getting only the first comment or first post here, so much better. This is the very basic use case of useEffect. We are doing some switching in our application, and something needs to be redrawn or drawn first time on the page. So then we are using this useEffect, and it can have this setting that what is the part that is changing. So as a conclusion, React has a lot of useful techniques to use when developing an application. So please do not reinvent the wheel when there are solutions. So if you have a problem, there is probably a solution for that. Use Google, use AI, Stack Overflow, whatever. There are probably already solutions and packages. So React has so much packages that there are pretty much is package for everything. If you have a just simple problem, then just install a package that will solve your problem. And this video was a simple demo of fragments, router, internationalization, and useEffect.